My hands have taken lives. Not one, not 10. I lost count after the Third War, after the winter when corpses froze before hitting the ground. My name is Rashid Khan, and for 17 years I served as commander of a Taliban group in the mountains of Helmand, Afghanistan. I learned to shoot before I learned to write. I learned to hate before I learned to love. And when I was 38 years old, I thought I knew every face of death. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day I tried to execute a man and the bullet refused to reach him. It was February 2018. The cold cut through skin like ice blades, and the wind howled through the rocks with that sound that only exists in places where hell and heaven fight for territory. Our improvised post was hidden among grey mountains, far from any city, far from any witness. The law didn't reach there. Mercy didn't reach there. Only we reached there. I grew up in a nameless village where children played among rusted tank remains and mothers cried in silence because crying aloud attracted trouble. My father fell when I was 7 years old, executed by foreign soldiers searching for insurgents. I never knew if he was guilty or innocent. It didn't matter either. War doesn't distinguish, it only devours. At 11, a man in a black turban with empty eyes came to our village to recruit. He handed me a rifle that weighed more than my bones. "You will avenge your father," he told me. And I, a child hungry for purpose, for identity, for reasons to keep breathing, accepted. They taught me that the world was divided in two, us and the enemies of Allah. They taught me that killing for the cause was an honor. They taught me that doubting was weakness. But at night, when the camp slept, and only the crackling of campfires remained, I remembered my mother. I remembered her praying quietly, hands extended toward a sky that seemed deaf. I remembered her whispering a name that wasn't Allah's, a name the elders forbade mentioning. Isa, she would say. Jesus. She said he was different, that he came to save, not to condemn. But these memories were like ghosts. I pushed them to the back of my mind every time I pulled the trigger. I rose quickly. I was efficient, cold, obedient. At 23, I commanded a squadron. At 30, I coordinated operations in 3 provinces. The men respected me, not for my wisdom, but for my ability to do what others couldn't, look a man in the eyes and take his life without trembling. I executed spies, traitors, foreigners who crossed our borders with hidden intentions. Some begged, others cursed. Some remained silent, accepting their fate with a resignation that disturbed me more than the screams. It didn't matter. The result was always the same, until he arrived. It was a Tuesday, around 2 in the afternoon, when my men dragged a foreigner to the post. He was young, maybe 30 years old, with brown hair full of dust and an unkempt beard. He wore local clothes, but his blue eyes betrayed him. He spoke Dari with a marked accent, but he spoke it. That surprised me. "We found him in Kari's village distributing books," reported one of my soldiers. A man named Farid with scars that crossed his face like maps of lost battles. He threw a backpack on the ground. 3 Bibles, 12 copies in Dari, hidden among blankets and medicine. "Missionary?" I asked, though the answer was obvious. The foreigner raised his gaze. There was no fear in his eyes. There was something worse. Peace. A peace that made no sense in a man about to face his end. "My name is David," he said in Dari. "I came to share Christ's love with those who've never heard it." My men laughed. I didn't, because in that moment, something inside me moved. Something ancient, something buried. My mother's voice, Isa came to save. The memory of her secret prayers, the weight of all the lives I had taken. I shook my head, expelling those thoughts like smoke from lungs. "You know what we do with infidels who come to corrupt our faith," I said, my voice firm as steel. David nodded slowly. "I know, and yet I came, because you too deserve to know that God loves you." Silence. One of my men spat on the ground. Another muttered a curse. Farid unsheathed his weapon, ready to end it immediately. I raised my hand, stopping him. "I'll do it," I said. I don't know why I said it. Maybe because executing missionaries was an act that required authority. Maybe because something in that man's gaze challenged me in a way I couldn't ignore. Maybe because deep in my hardened soul, I needed to prove to myself that I could still do this without hesitation. I grabbed my pistol, a Makarov PM, companion of 17 years that had never failed me. The metal was cold, familiar. I had cleaned it that very morning. "Kneel," I ordered. David obeyed. But before lowering his head, he looked directly at me and said something that pierced me like a spear of fire. "Rashid, God forgives you even now." I stopped. "How do you know my name?" He smiled, not with mockery, with tenderness. "I don't know, but he knows." I gripped the weapon so tightly my knuckles turned white. "Last chance," I said, my voice trembling for the first time in years. "Renounce your faith. Say Allah is the only God and you'll live." David closed his eyes, breathed deeply, and when he opened them, tears ran down his dusty face. "I cannot renounce the truth. Jesus is the Son of God. He died for me, and I would die 1,000 times before denying him." My men murmured uneasily. The wind stopped blowing. Everything hung suspended, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. I raised the weapon, aimed at the center of his chest, and fired. If you've ever felt that God abandoned you, if you believed your past is too dark to be redeemed, stay with me until the end. Because what happened after that shot changed my life forever. The thunder of the shot tore through the silence. I know that sound better than my own name. The recoil of the weapon, the smell of burned gunpowder, the mathematical certainty that a 9mm bullet fired from 3 meters away pierces flesh, bone, and life without mercy. I've seen bodies collapse before the echo ends. I've seen the light fade from men's eyes in less than 2 seconds. Yet David didn't fall. He remained kneeling, eyes closed, hands clasped over his chest. His torn, dirty shirt had no blood, no hole, nothing. As if the bullet had passed through the air itself and disappeared into another dimension. I lowered the weapon, stunned. My men were paralyzed. Farid, the closest to me, stepped back 3 paces with his mouth open and eyes wide. Another soldier, Hamid, muttered something in Pashto I couldn't understand. The wind that had been howling for hours stopped completely. The entire mountain seemed to be watching. "What?" I began to say, but my voice broke. David slowly opened his eyes. He looked at me, and on his face there was no triumph, no mockery, only an impossible serenity, as if he had just woken from a peaceful dream. "God protected me," he said with a soft voice, almost a whisper. No, this wasn't possible. I had pulled the trigger. I had felt the recoil. I had heard the detonation. Bullets don't disappear. The laws of physics don't stop because a man prays. I raised the weapon again, this time with trembling hands. My heart pounded in my chest like a war drum. I aimed again, closer, adjusting the angle. This time I wouldn't fail. This time there would be no mistakes. I pulled the trigger, nothing. The weapon jammed. I tried to release the bolt, forced the mechanism, slapped the butt with my palm. Nothing. The pistol that had functioned perfectly for 17 years, that I cleaned that very morning, that had never failed me even once, was completely useless in my hands. "Give me your weapon," I shouted at Farid. He handed it over with trembling hands, an AK-47 I knew as well as my own face. I loaded it, aimed, fired. The shot went out but missed. Not that my aim was off, no. The bullet veered as if an invisible hand had pushed it mid-flight. It hit a rock 5 meters away, raising a cloud of dust. I fired again. Once more the bullet veered, this time toward the ground, burying itself in the dry earth centimeters from my own feet. "This is witchcraft," Hamid shouted, backing up until he hit the stone wall of the post. "He's a demon!" "Shut up," I screamed, but my voice lacked conviction, because I was thinking the same thing. Because none of this made sense. Because in 17 years of war, in thousands of executions, in hundreds of battles, I had never seen anything like this. David remained kneeling, motionless, hands over his chest, eyes closed, lips moving in silent prayer. He didn't try to flee, didn't beg, did nothing except be there, as if he knew with absolute certainty that nothing we did could touch him. I threw the rifle to the ground with such force, the impact echoed against the rocks. My breathing was irregular, my mind a chaos of contradictory thoughts. The voices of my men mixed in a confused whisper of fear and confusion. "Commander, what do we do?" Farid asked, his voice almost inaudible. I had no answer. For the first time in my adult life, I didn't know what to do. I looked at David. He opened his eyes and held my gaze with an intensity that pierced my soul. "Rashid," he said my name again with that impossible familiarity. "You cannot kill me because it's not my time. God has a purpose for my life, and He also has a purpose for yours." "Shut up," I shouted, feeling panic rise up my throat. "You don't know anything about me. I know you've carried the weight of spilled blood for years. I know there are nights when you can't sleep, when the faces of those you executed appear in your dreams. I know your mother spoke to you of Jesus when you were a child, and that you buried that memory because it hurts too much to remember. Every word was a blow. Every word was a truth I had never told anyone." "How?" I whispered. "It's not me who knows," David responded, tears rolling down his face again. "It's God. He knows you, Rashid. He knows you by name, and He loves you." Something inside me broke. I can't explain it better. It was like a dam built over decades finally gave way under pressure. I felt a sharp pain in my chest, not physical, but deeper, as if all the lives I had taken were compressed in that single moment, demanding to be acknowledged. "Lock him up," I ordered brusquely, turning so no one would see my face. "Now." My men obeyed, still stunned. They dragged David to an improvised cell, a narrow space between rocks covered with rusty metal bars. He didn't resist. He just kept looking at me with those eyes full of impossible compassion as they locked him up. When I was alone, with the sun beginning to set behind the mountains, I collapsed against the stone wall. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, my breathing was labored, and for the first time since I was a 7-year-old child crying for his father, tears began to flow. What had just happened? What power could stop a bullet in the air? What God protects an unarmed man from an executioner armed to the teeth? That night, no one in the guard slept. The men gathered around the campfire, murmuring theories, sharing fears. Some said it was black magic, others that the weapon was cursed. Farid suggested burning the prisoner alive to ensure he died. But even as he said it, his voice trembled with a doubt that had never been there before. I said nothing. I sat far from the group, back against the cold rock, staring at the stars shining over the mountains. And for the first time in 17 years, I prayed. Not to Allah, not with the ritual words I had repeated 1,000 times, but with a desperate whisper that came from the deepest part of my being. If you really exist, if you really are who that man says you are, show me. Share this testimony if you've ever fired words or actions against someone and felt there's no going back. Because what I learned that night is that no heart is too hardened for God. The hours dragged like serpents through the rocks. The campfire crackled with an irregular sound, projecting dancing shadows over the tense faces of my men. No one spoke in a loud voice, only nervous murmurs, furtive glances toward the cell where David was imprisoned, and the constant, restless movement of hands caressing weapons seeking comfort. I remained apart, sitting on a flat rock with my back against the mountain, watching the night sky. The stars shone with brutal clarity, like silent witnesses to what had happened. The cold bit my skin through thick clothing, but I barely felt it. My mind was elsewhere in another time. I closed my eyes, and inevitably the memories came. My mother, She had a face marked by sun and desert harshness, but her eyes were soft. Always soft, even when life struck us with iron fists, even when hunger squeezed our stomachs and war roared around us. She maintained that impossible softness. I remembered her on a specific night when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. We had buried my father that afternoon, wrapped in a blanket because we had no wood for a coffin. The village elders had led the ritual prayers, but when everyone left, when darkness covered our small mud house, my mother knelt beside my bed and began to pray differently. "Isa," she whispered, hands extended toward the cracked ceiling. "Jesus, have mercy on us. Protect my son. Show him your love." "Mother," I had said, frightened. "The elders say we shouldn't speak that name." She looked at me with a sad smile full of knowledge I couldn't comprehend. "The elders are afraid, son. But I know the truth. Isa came to save, not to condemn. He came to forgive, not to punish. And someday, when you're older, you'll understand why I whisper his name in the darkness." I never asked her again. The following year, she also fell, victim to a disease the few doctors in the region couldn't treat. And I, orphaned at 10, was taken in by the men in black turbans who taught me to wield rifles instead of hope. I buried her words along with her body. Yet tonight, those words resurrected. Isa came to save. I opened my eyes abruptly, heart pounding. The camp remained in disturbing silence. Farid smoked near the fire, shoulders tense. Hamid sharpened a knife with mechanical, repetitive movements as if the act kept him sane. Others slept with superficial sleep, startling at the slightest noise. And then I heard it. A soft, distant song, but unmistakable. It came from the cell. David was singing. I stood slowly, as if hypnotized, and walked to the rusty bars. My steps echoed on the rocky floor, but no one stopped me. Everyone heard it too. Everyone was paralyzed by that sound. It wasn't in Dari or English. It was in another language, maybe Hebrew, maybe Aramaic. But you didn't need to understand the words to feel what they conveyed. There was peace in that voice, a certainty, an inexplicable joy considering the man singing was imprisoned and condemned to imminent execution. I approached until I was just 1 meter from the bars. David was sitting on the dirt floor, legs crossed, hands resting on his knees. His eyes were closed, his face illuminated by the tenuous moonlight filtering through cracks in the rocks. He sang with a smile on his lips. But when he finished, he opened his eyes and looked directly at me, as if he knew all along I was there. "You can't sleep," he said. It wasn't a question. "No one can," I responded, my voice hoarse. "I know. Fear is loud, louder than any gunshot." I moved closer, gripping the bars with both hands. "What are you?" I demanded. "Are you a sorcerer? A demon? How did you do it?" David shook his head gently. "I'm nothing special, Rashid. I'm just a man who met Jesus and decided to follow him, even if that means dying. What you saw today wasn't my power. It was his. That's impossible. Is it more impossible than a bullet that doesn't reach, than a weapon that jams for no reason, than shots that veer in the air?" I had no answer. David stood slowly, approaching the bars until we were face to face, separated only by rusty metal. "God is calling you, Rashid. He's done it your whole life, through your mother, through moments when your conscience screamed but you silenced it. And today, he did it through me. Because he doesn't want your perdition. He wants your redemption." "I don't deserve redemption," I said, and those words came out with more pain than I'd felt in years. "My hands are stained with innocent blood. I've taken lives without blinking. I've followed orders without questioning. I've been the executioner everyone fears. How could a God forgive that?" The tears returned, burning, humiliating, rolling down my face without control. David extended his hand through the bars, touching my shoulder with a gentleness that broke me. Because that's exactly the kind of people Jesus came to save. He didn't come for the righteous. He came for the brokenhearted, the lost, the murderers, thieves, traitors. He himself was executed alongside criminals because he wanted everyone to know that no one is too far from his love. You don't understand what I've done. I don't need to understand. God already knows. And even so, he loves you. Even so, he calls you by name. Even so, he offers a new life. I collapsed against the bars, crying like I hadn't since childhood. All the weight of 17 years of violence, of decisions I couldn't undo, of faces I could never forget, fell on me like an avalanche. What do I have to do? I whispered through tears. How can I change this? You can't, David said with brutal honesty. You can't undo the past. You can't resurrect those who've gone. You can't erase the scars. But you can let God transform them. You can give him your life, with all its weight, with all your pain, and let him make something new of it. What if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough? It's not about your strength. It's about his. Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rashid, you're burdened. You're weary. You're dying inside even though you keep breathing, but he can give you life, true life. We stayed like that for what seemed like hours, me crying against the bars, him standing on the other side with a hand on my shoulder, praying softly in that language I didn't understand, but my soul recognized. When I finally could speak, my voice was almost a thread. Teach me how to pray to your God." David smiled, and in that smile there was a joy so pure it almost blinded me. "He's not my God, Rashid. He's yours now too." And there, in the middle of the darkest night of my life, with cold biting my bones and the weight of my past crushing me, David guided me in my first true prayer. "Jesus," I whispered, repeating his words. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know if I deserve your attention. But they told me you love even those who don't deserve it. They told me you can wash even the deepest stains. If that's true, if you can really forgive someone like me, then here I am. With all my fragility, with all my guilt, accept me, transform me, because I can't keep living like this." There were no thunders, no lightning, no audible voices from heaven. But something changed. Something inside me that had been dead for decades began to awaken. Like and share if you've ever felt your past disqualifies you from God's love. Because tonight I learned there's no heart too broken for him to rebuild. Tomorrow came with a blood-colored sky. The first lights of day filtered through the mountains, staining the rocks in reddish tones that seemed like a warning, or perhaps a promise. I couldn't tell anymore. I hadn't slept a single minute after that desperate prayer beside the cell. I had returned to my place against the rock, trembling not from cold, but from something I couldn't name. It was as if I had opened a door I'd kept closed my entire adult life, and now everything I had stored behind it was coming out in torrents. My men woke gradually, faces marked by exhaustion and confusion. No one mentioned what happened the day before, but everyone carried it in their eyes. The fear hadn't disappeared, if it ever had. Farid approached me with cautious steps, as if he feared I had lost my reason. "Commander," he said, voice tense, "what will we do with the prisoner? We can't keep him here indefinitely. The superiors will ask questions." He was right. Keeping a foreign missionary captured without immediately executing him was a protocol violation. If anyone discovered it, I would be next to face consequences. Yet the idea of trying to execute David again filled me with primitive terror. "I need to interrogate him," I finally said, inventing an excuse that sounded empty even to me. "Alone. I want to know why he really came, who sent him if there are others like him." Farid looked at me with skepticism but nodded. "As you command, Commander." I waited until the sun was completely above the horizon. I waited until my men were occupied with their morning tasks. Then I grabbed a water bottle and walked to the cell. David was awake, sitting in the same position I'd left him, as if he hadn't moved all night. When he saw me, he smiled with that disconcerting warmth. "Good morning, Rashid." There's nothing good about this day, I responded, but my voice lacked conviction. I opened the cell. The metal door creaked on its rusty hinges. My men on the other side of the camp raised their heads in alarm. "If you try to escape, they'll shoot," I said. "I won't escape," David said simply. "God told me to come here. I won't leave until he says it's time." I led him to an isolated space, away from curious eyes, where rocks formed a kind of natural cave. There, with wind whistling softly around us, we sat face to face. I gave him the water bottle. He drank slowly, gratitude in his eyes. "Why did you really come?" I asked without preamble. "Don't tell me it was just to distribute books. No one risks their life this way for paper and ink." David lowered the bottle, looking at me with a seriousness that contrasted with his usual gentleness. "I came because God asked me to. 3 years ago, during prayer, I heard his voice as clearly as I'm hearing you now. He told me, 'Go to Afghanistan. Bring my love to those who think they're my enemies. Show them I've forgiven even those who nailed me to the cross.' That's madness. I know. I said that to God that same night. I said it was impossible, a senseless plan that would probably cost me my life. And do you know what he answered me? What? That's exactly why I needed to go. Because love that costs nothing transforms nothing." His words pierced my chest like daggers. "But you're not the one paying the price," I said bitterly. "Yesterday I tried to execute you twice. Twice I failed in ways that defy all logic. Do you think that has no consequences? If my superiors find out, if the news spreads, they'll accuse me of treason, complicity, weakness." "I know," David said, and there was genuine pain in his voice. "I didn't come here to ruin your life, Rashid. I came because God wants to save you, not just your soul, your entire life. He wants to free you from this prison you've built around your heart." "You don't understand anything," I retorted, feeling frustration boil inside me. "I can't just leave all this. I can't wake up one day and decide I'm no longer a Taliban commander. I can't erase 17 years of service. I can't—" My voice broke. "I can't betray the men who died at my side. I can't become the enemy I spent my life fighting." David leaned forward, eyes shining with intensity. "What if I told you that serving Jesus isn't betraying your people? What if I told you the real betrayal is continuing to destroy lives, including yours, in the name of a cause that fills graves, but not hearts? Rashid, God isn't asking you to hate your culture or your people. He's asking you to truly love them, and true love doesn't kill, it transforms." "How?" I demanded, raising my voice. "How do you expect me to transform anything when my hands only know how to destroy? By letting God wash them, by letting him give you new hands, new eyes, a new heart." I stood abruptly, pacing back and forth like a caged animal. "Yesterday you prayed with me," David continued, voice soft but firm. "You asked Jesus to change you. Was that prayer real, or just empty words born from fear?" I stopped abruptly. "It was real," I admitted barely audibly. "But I don't know what that means. I don't know what I'm expected to do now." "Start by trusting. Start by believing that the God who stopped 2 bullets yesterday is the same God who can guide you to a new life. Start by understanding he's not asking you to have everything figured out, just to take the next step." "And what is that step?" David smiled. "Let me go." The world stopped. "What?" "Let me go, Rashid. Open that cell and let me leave. Not because it's safe for you, not because it makes sense, but because it's right. Because it's the first act of faith God is asking from you. If I let you go, they'll execute me," I said, feeling panic rise up my throat. "My own men will consider me a traitor. The superiors will send a team. There's no escape. Then you'll have to leave too." The silence that followed was deafening. "Leave," I repeated, as if the word were a foreign language. "Where? This mountain has been my home for years. This cause has been my identity. Who am I without it?" "You are a son of God," David said with a certainty that shattered me. You are a beloved man, forgiven, called to something greater than war. And yes, leaving all this will be terrifying. It will be painful. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. But on the other side of that fear is the life you were created for. I let myself fall to the ground, head in my hands. For long minutes I said nothing, just breathed, just existed in that space between two worlds, what I knew and what I could barely imagine. Finally, I looked up. If I do this, if I let you go and abandon everything, what guarantee do I have that I'm not making the worst mistake of my life? David extended his hand toward me. You have no guarantees, but you have a promise. Jesus said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That promise has sustained my life for years, and it will sustain yours too. I looked at his outstretched hand for an eternity. Then, slowly, I took it. Share with your country if you've ever had to choose between the safe and the right, between the familiar and the true. Because that day, I made the most frightening and liberating decision of my life. That same night, under the blanket of darkness covering the mountains like a veil, I let David escape. It wasn't dramatic. There were no explosions or gunfights. I simply opened the cell when my men slept, gave him enough provisions for 3 days, a rudimentary map marked with safe routes to the border, and watched him walk away between the rocks with silent steps. Before disappearing into the darkness, he turned one last time. We'll meet again, Rashid, in this life or the next, but we'll meet. Then he was gone, and I stood there trembling, knowing I had just crossed a point of no return. The next morning, when they discovered the empty cell, the camp exploded in chaos. Farid shouted contradictory orders. Hamid inspected the broken lock with disbelief. Others ran in all directions looking for traces of the prisoner who seemed to have evaporated. "Commander!" Farid shouted, approaching me with his face red with fury. "How did he escape? The cell was locked." I kept my expression impassive, hardened by years of practice. The lock was weak. He must have forced it during the night while we all slept. It's our fault for not watching him better. The lie came out with an ease that disgusted me, but it was necessary. For now. "Do we send a search team?" Hamid asked. "No," I responded firmly. "He already has too much advantage. And frankly, after what we saw, I'd rather that man be far from here." My words resonated with the collective fear everyone felt, but no one admitted. Slowly, the men nodded. No one wanted to face the impossible again. However, I knew this was just the beginning. During the following days, I lived a double life more intense than any clandestine operation. Outwardly, I remained Commander Rashid Khan, relentless, efficient, loyal. I conducted patrols, coordinated communications, maintained order with a firm hand. But inside, everything had changed. David's words had planted seeds that grew with frightening speed. Every time I gave an order, I asked myself if it was just. Every time I held my weapon, I remembered the lives I had taken. Every time my men spoke of enemies and infidels, I heard my mother's voice whispering, "Isa came to save, not to condemn." It was torture. 1 week after David's escape, I received an order that split me in two. We were to execute 3 prisoners accused of espionage, 2 men and a woman captured in a nearby village, accused of passing information to foreign forces. They brought them to the post, tied and beaten. The woman, about 25 years old, bled from her temple. One of the men limped visibly. The other kept his head down, defeated. "Commander," Farid said, offering me his pistol. "Do you want to do the honors?" I looked at the weapon, then at the prisoners, then at my own hands, and for the first time in 17 years, I said no. "Lock them up," I ordered. "I need to interrogate them first. Verify the accusations." Farid looked at me surprised but obeyed. That night, when everyone slept, I went down to the improvised cells. The 3 prisoners looked at me with understandable terror. I was the executioner. I was death that came with a human face. "I'm not going to hurt you," I said in a low voice, words I had never uttered before. "But I need to know the truth." Are you guilty of the accusations?" The two men remained silent, but the woman, with swollen eyes full of tears, spoke. "My brother worked for the foreigners. He translated documents, but when they discovered him, they executed him. Now they accuse us too, but we did nothing. We were just his family." Her voice broke on the last word. I closed my eyes, feeling something inside me break definitively. "Listen to me," I said, kneeling to be at their level. "I'm going to get you out of here. Not tonight, but soon. I need to plan the route, get provisions, but I promise I won't execute innocent people, not anymore." The woman looked at me as if I had just announced the sky was green. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would you help us?" "Because I met someone who showed me there's another way. And because if I don't start changing now, I'll die being the monster I spent my life becoming." Over the next 2 weeks, I orchestrated an escape that required every ounce of cunning I possessed. I falsified transfer reports. I bribed a guard with valuable information. I created a distraction in the form of a supposed enemy attack that never happened. And on a moonless night, I guided the 3 prisoners through a secret path I'd known for years, taking them to a neutral village where they would have a chance to flee. Before leaving them, the woman grabbed my hand. "What's your name?" she asked. "It doesn't matter. Just live. And if you ever have the chance, pray for me." "Pray to whom?" "To Jesus. He's the one saving me." I returned to the post as dawn began to tint the sky. My men were beginning to wake. No one suspected anything yet, but I knew time was running out. During the following days, I began to pray in secret. I didn't have a Bible. I didn't know the right prayers. I just whispered clumsy words in the darkness, asking for guidance, asking for strength, asking God to show me the next step. And then something extraordinary happened. During a routine patrol through an apparently abandoned village, I found something hidden in the ruins of a bombed house. A small Bible in Dari, stained with dried blood, pages crumpled but legible. I grabbed it with trembling hands, looking around to make sure no one saw me. I hid it under my clothes, feeling the small book burn against my chest like hot coal. That night, with a small lantern hidden under a blanket, I read Jesus' words with my own eyes for the first time. "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" Every word was a bomb, every verse a revolution. I read until my eyes burned, until tears blurred the words, until I felt my chest would burst with everything I was discovering. Yet along with revelation came terror, because I knew I couldn't continue like this. I couldn't be a Taliban commander by day and a follower of Christ by night. I couldn't order violence with one hand while holding a Bible with the other. I had to choose, and the choice meant leaving everything. My position, my identity, my security, probably my life. 1 week before everything collapsed, I had an encounter that changed everything. On another patrol to a remote village, I met an elder selling bread. Something in his eyes stopped me. There was a light there, a peace I recognized immediately. "You're a believer," I said quietly without thinking. The elder looked at me carefully, evaluating whether I was a threat. "And if I were?" he responded cautiously. "I am too," I said. "I'm new to this. I'm learning right now, but I need to know I'm not alone." The elder's eyes filled with tears. "Son," he said, voice trembling, "there are more of us than you think. We hide. We meet secretly. But we exist. The persecuted church still lives. Can I meet with you?" The elder hesitated, then nodded slowly. "There's a meeting in 3 nights. In a cave 2 hours north of here. I can give you instructions, but you must come alone and never reveal the location." Over the next 3 nights, I could barely sleep. Fear and anticipation battled inside me. But when the time came, escaping the camp with an excuse of verifying enemy activity reports, I followed the elder's instructions. The cave was small, hidden behind a dried waterfall. Inside, illuminated only by candles, were 15 people, men, women, elderly, young, all praying in low voices, singing whispered hymns. When I entered, everyone fell silent, looking at me with understandable fear. I still wore my uniform, still carried my weapon. "Peace," I said, the word coming out difficult from my mouth. I come looking for Jesus." The elder I had met approached, placing his hand on my shoulder. "Then you're in the right place, son. Welcome home." That night I cried more than in all my life. That night, surrounded by brothers and sisters who risked everything to meet secretly, I felt for the first time what it meant to belong to a true family. And that night, I knew with absolute certainty that I had to leave. Share this testimony if you've ever had to live hiding your faith, if you felt you were alone on your journey with God. Because I learned the church exists, even in the darkest places. The betrayal was discovered on a Tuesday afternoon. Farid found the Bible. I had been careless, too tired after a sleepless night, and left it partially visible on my sleeping bag. When I returned from a patrol, Farid was waiting for me, face pale, the small book in his hands. "Commander," he said, voice trembling between disbelief and fury. "What is this?" The entire camp stopped. All eyes turned to us. There was no escape, no excuse. So I told the truth. "It's a Bible, and yes, I've been reading it." The silence that followed was like the moment before an explosion. "You've betrayed us," Farid shouted, throwing the book to the ground. "All this time, the prisoner who escaped, the other 3 you transferred, your strange behavior, you've become one of them." I didn't deny it. Hamid unsheathed his weapon, pointing it at me with trembling hands. Others did the same. In seconds, I was surrounded by men who had been my brothers in arms, now looking at me like the enemy I always was. "Lower your weapons," I said calmly, though my heart beat like a war drum. "I won't fight. I won't hurt anyone, but I won't lie anymore either. Yes, I met Jesus, and yes, my life changed, and I don't regret it." "You're a traitor," Hamid spat. "You deserve to die." "Probably," I admitted. "I've done things for which I deserve to die 1,000 times. But I also found forgiveness. I found peace. And I found a God who loves even murderers like me, like all of us." "Shut up!" Farid shouted, approaching with his face distorted by rage. "Don't speak of us as if we were the same. You chose to betray us." "I chose to live," I interrupted, my voice firm for the first time in 17 years. "I chose to live instead of just surviving. And if that's betrayal, then I'm guilty." Farid raised his weapon, pointing straight at my head. "Then die like a traitor." I closed my eyes, waiting for the shot that would finally reach me. However, before Farid could pull the trigger, Hamid shouted, "Wait. If we execute him here, the superiors will ask questions. They'll want to know how it happened, why we didn't detect it before. They'll blame us all." Farid hesitated, logic penetrating his fury. "Then we turn him in," he said finally. "Let them decide his fate." They tied my hands with ropes so tight they cut circulation. They dragged me to the same cell where David had been imprisoned. And there I remained for 3 days, waiting for the verdict that would mean my public execution. But in that cell, something strange happened. I didn't feel despair. I felt peace. I prayed constantly, whispering the words I'd learned from the Bible, remembering the promises I'd read. And in the midst of darkness, I felt God's presence in a way so tangible, it was almost visible. "Fear not, for I am with you. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. He who began a good work in you will perfect it." On the 3rd night, I heard a whisper outside the cell. "Rashid." I raised my head. It was one of the younger guards, a 19-year-old boy named Amir, who had always been quiet, observant. "What do you want?" I asked. "I want you to know something," he said in an almost inaudible voice. "I've been questioning too. I've seen things I can't justify." I've done things that haunt me in dreams. And when I heard you speak that day, when you said you found forgiveness, something inside me awakened. I moved closer to the bars, looking intently at Amir. If you're looking for truth, search for it, no matter the cost. Because in the end, it's all that matters. They're coming for you tomorrow, he whispered. An execution team. They'll take you to the public square, and you know what happens then. I know. I can help you escape tonight. I know a route. I can distract the other guards. I stayed motionless, processing his words. Why would you do this? Because if your God is real, if he can really change someone like you, then I want to know him. But I can't do that if you're dead. That night, with Amir's help, I escaped. It wasn't elegant. We ran through the mountains with only moonlight, stumbling on rocks, hiding in caves when we heard search patrols. Amir got provisions, water, dry bread, a map. There's a Christian organization at the Pakistan border, he told me as we ran. They help refugees, persecuted people. If you can get there, they'll protect you. And you? I'll go back. I'll say you attacked me, left me unconscious. They'll believe me. I'm young and inexperienced. But you can't go back. Never. We stopped on a ridge, breathless, with dawn beginning to light the horizon. Amir, I said, gripping his shoulders. Thank you. And please seek that truth. Seek Jesus. He's waiting for you. The boy nodded, tears in his eyes. Then he ran back to the life I was leaving behind, and I continued forward, toward the unknown. The journey to the border took 11 days. 11 days of walking at night, hiding by day, surviving on minimum. There were moments I thought I wouldn't make it. Moments when hunger and thirst made me delirious. Moments when I heard patrols so close I could hear their voices. But I kept going. And on the 12th day, half dead from exhaustion, I reached a small building with a cross painted on the door. When I knocked, a middle-aged woman opened. She looked me up and down, taking in my pitiful state, my torn uniform, my sunken eyes. "Do you need help?" she asked in Dari. "I need shelter," I responded, voice hoarse. I was a Taliban commander, but I met Jesus, and now they're hunting me to execute me. The woman showed no fear, only compassion. "Come in, brother. You're safe here." The following months were of physical, emotional, spiritual healing. The organization helped me process the trauma, face my past, learn more deeply about the faith that transformed my life. And eventually, they helped me relocate to a country where I could start over. Today, I live in a place I can't name for security. I work helping other refugees, especially those fleeing situations similar to mine. And I share my testimony whenever I can, because the world needs to know that no heart is too hardened for God. I haven't fired a weapon again. I haven't taken another life. Instead, I spend my days giving life, with words of hope, with practical help, with testimony of what God can do with someone who decides to surrender. Was it easy? No. I lost friends. I lost my identity. I lost my homeland. But I gained something infinitely more valuable. I gained my soul. And when I think of David on that impossible day when bullets wouldn't reach, I understand now what God was doing. He wasn't just protecting David. He was calling me. He was showing me that his power is real, his love is real, his forgiveness is real, even for those who don't deserve it, especially for those who don't deserve it. If this testimony touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to know God doesn't give up on anyone. Subscribe for more stories of radical faith and comment your country so I know how far this message of hope reaches. And if you, like me, have carried the weight of decisions you can't undo, mistakes you can't erase, I want you to know this. Jesus offers you a new beginning. No matter how dark your past, no matter how stained your hands, He can wash everything. He can make you a new thing. Pray with me. Jesus, I come to you exactly as I am, with my vulnerability, with my guilt, with all the weight of my past. I don't know how to do this perfectly, but I believe you can forgive me. I believe you can transform me. I accept your offer of a new life. Wash me, transform me, use me. Amen. If you made this prayer for the first time, welcome to the family. Your life just changed forever. May God bless you. And remember, no shot, no past, no sin is too great for the God who stopped bullets in midair.